So, first video, the Castles of Burgundy. It's for 2 to 4 players, available mainly in 3 editions, one being the beloved 2011 printing that is known to be incredibly cheap for what it is, but it has pretty basic art and components. There's the 2019 printing that has arguably prettier art and more modules, but it's a bit marred by some readability issues, and well, there's also the special edition from 2023 that is the fanciest version with possibly the best art and component quality, but it is a cautionary tale in excess, with the minis from the all-in package being outrageously clunky to use during the game and readability issues still plaguing the acrylic tiles, to name a few of the issues. Still, if you're willing to look past any of the production issues from any of the printings, what you have is an excellent game that stands the test of time and replayability. It's crazy that me and my wife plays this almost every day on BGA and we still not have grown tired of it. As for the theme of the game, this is a game where players will play as aristocrats in the Burgundy region of high medieval France, building settlements and castles, trading along the river, exploiting the silver mines, and using the knowledge of travelers. Unfortunately, the theme doesn't really shine all that well in this game, so if that kind of thing bothers you, well, that's one of the knocks against this game overall. Okay, so how do the turns work? Well, it's actually pretty easy. There's not much to worry on BGA in terms of turn upkeep, but what the game will prompt you for in the beginning will depend on your settings. You can possibly choose a map, then choose a starting position for your castle, and then the game just starts. Overall, just try to get points. Every turn, you mostly have 2 actions, each tied to one of your d6s. The most common actions you'll be doing is either getting a hex tile from one of the depots and placing it into your storage, or placing a hex tile from your storage into your duchy. The 2 other things that are less used, but you'll still definitely end up doing, are selling one pile of square goods tiles or getting some workers, especially since selling goods tiles nets you points in silver, which then lets you buy hex tiles from the central depot, and having workers allow you to increase or decrease a dice value plus or minus 1, with the 6 wrapping around to a 1 and vice versa. Of course, for most of these actions, the die value indicates the limitations of that action. If you have a die with a value of 6, you can only get hex tiles that are on depot numbered 6, place a tile from your storage into a space on your duchy numbered 6, or sell a goods tile numbered 6. Workers don't really care about the value of your die though, and will usually have an exchange rate of 1 die for 2 workers. Do note that even if you have a die with a value that can be used to place a hex tile, if it isn't adjacent to any of your tiles yet, you still can't place it there. So planning how your lump of hexes sprawl is also a key thing to take note of. Another limitation that you have is that you can only have 3 hex tiles in your storage and 3 types of good tiles. So if all you get are tiles that you can't place because you're trying to not use workers, you need to discard maybe one of them to prevent yourself from getting locked out from the game. There is a special action where you can buy 1 tile from the central black depot using 2 silver, but that's usually only available if you have any silver at all. And the game will remind you about it before you end your turn, and you at least have 2 silver anyway. Once you've used all your workers, your turn is over, and play passes on to the next player. That mostly continues for the rest of the game's 25 turns, with the game doing some upkeep every turn, which is mainly just a new goods tile being randomly placed in one of the 6 depots, and some in-between round upkeep every round, which boils down to players getting silver, all of the hex tiles in the depots being replaced and refilled by new ones, and a new lineup of good tiles showing up. As for how this game works on BGA, each player will have their little space on the upper right telling you your current score, how many workers you have, and how many silver you have. Workers and silver can be easy to forget because they're just tuckered into that little corner there, but BGA at least highlights the tiles in your storage that you can place on your duchy, or the tiles that you can sell, or the tiles that you can obtain from the depots, automatically computing it using your current die values and workers. It also reminds you that you can still buy some tiles using silver coins. Most of it is pretty easy to parse, and all of the tiles can be hovered over with a mouse or long pressed on mobile to know more about what each of the tiles actually do. Okay, so going back to the point of the game, just get points, right? But scoring isn't really that hard. It's pretty straightforward. You get points for quite a lot of things in this game, actually, but a big chunk of it will come from placing tiles in your duchy. If you fill out all of the spaces of a colored area with hex tiles, you get points depending on the size of that area in the current round, so bigger areas yield bigger points. But you also get points if you're the first or second person to completely cover all of the spaces of a color in your duchy. So even if there's like less uh, castle tiles out there, like you'll get 5 points from being the first person to just completely cover all of your castle spaces. I also mentioned something about the current round being taken into account here, because the earlier that you finish an area, you'll just get more points from it. And yeah, it's sometimes it's not really possible for you to completely fill out an area. So you'll need to find which areas of your duchy you can fill out as a good part of your strategy there. All of these hex tiles, that is like the main point of the game, there's actually a whole bunch of types of them. So I guess let's start the tile breakdown by introducing the yellow tiles, as these are some of the biggest rule breakers for the game. They all passively give you something, such as workers now getting up to plus or minus 2 instead of just 1, selling goods netting you more coins, silver mines also getting you workers at the beginning of a turn, and even getting endgame points for having things in your duchy or your supply. There's a lot of these, so I won't get into explaining all of them, but BGA does allow you to see what each yellow tile does, so you can plan when they come up. Mines are also kind of passive in that when you place them, nothing really happens immediately. But every time a new round begins, mines give their owners 1 silver for each mine in their duchy. It's not a lot, but it is one of the most reliable sources of silver in the game. Castles are your combo-tastic tiles. When you place them, you immediately take another action without needing to worry about the dice value. Sell any good styles, get to replace any hex, or maybe just get a worker or 2. Of course, placing a castle to place another castle to do the other thing is just a tip of the combo possibilities in Castles of Burgundy. Ships may be a bit undervalued by beginners just because there's so much to do in this game, but they're pretty important because they let you move your turn order tracker 1 space forward when you place them. And being potentially first in a game where the selection of tiles get fewer each turn is pretty important. Additionally, ships also allow you to get goods tiles from the depots, provided that you have space for them or that there are some good tiles at all. The animals, they're point machines. Yeah, with each animal tile giving you points depending on how many of an animal is depicted on the tile you placed. So you place a tile with 3 goats on it, you get 3 points. Pretty simple. However, the satisfying bit here is that if you place an animal tile in the future that has the same animal as any previously placed animal tile in the same area, all of them gives you their points again. So if you get another animal tile in the previous example with 4 goats on it now, you get 4 for that, sure. But you also get another 3 for having like goat loyalty. And finally, we have the beige tiles. Much like the yellow tiles, each of the beige tiles do something different. And while there's significantly fewer of them, like the yellow tiles there's 20 plus, and the beige tiles there's only like 8 of them, what they do was pretty straightforward if you hover them in-game. But unlike yellow tiles, their effects happen immediately. And you also can't have the same beige tile within the same area. So if you have a watchtower, the one that gives you 4 points, then you can't just keep getting more watchtowers in the same area to give you 4 points apiece, because every beige area can't hold more than one of the same type of beige tile. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You've got 5 rounds of 5 turns each, with each turn having 2 die actions, mostly. Squeeze that machine as best as you can to come out on top in your game of Castles of Burgundy.